Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we're here today for a very special Real 50 Over 50 and 50 But Not Dead. um, my dear friend, Kamrin Huban, is here today because it's Valentine's Day, and we are considering this interview to be a love letter to women entrepreneurs and to celebrate you and to love you and to, just have a great conversation. And I asked Cameron to do this with me because she is the host of a podcast called 50 Not Dead. And together we have interviewed more than 100 women that are over the age of 50. So we've gathered some wisdom and some stories and some insight about what it's like beyond ourselves being women over 50 that are entrepreneurs. So let me do a quick intro so you know who she is, and then we're going to dive right into conversation. If you are here live, you know, put some comments in. We want you to be part of the conversation too. And if you're watching the replay, please tag us because we'll come back and we'll keep the conversation going. This is a really important conversation. So without further ado, Cameron is an executive leadership and personal development coach and a mental rebrand strategist. We're going to talk a little about that too. Focuses on helping women in their 50s make extraordinary change. She's also the host of the very popular podcast 50 Not Dead, and I welcome you here. I'm so happy to be doing this together.
Oh, Donna, thank you so much for having me on and for asking me to partner with you for this really special uh, episode. I think that our two communities, the Real 50 Over 50 and the 50 Not Dead community, are absolutely complementary. And I'm tickled to be here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Well, not only complementary, but intertwined because we keep introducing each other to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've already got people chiming in. We've got Janet,
Oh, hi,
part
Janet.
of the intertwined community.
100%.
And Maria, thank you for coming. I'm so happy to see you here. And we are just going to jump right in because we've got a lot to talk about. So the first thing that I want to talk about is like what changes after you turn 50 and why do women over the age of 50 become entrepreneurs? Because there's a lot of us.
There are. And, it's that question of what changes. It's almost like what doesn't change. this it's an incredibly there's a lot of disruption,
Yeah.
right? And it's not bad disruption. It's
No.
just a lot of things happen. We go through obviously the physical change. We may have children leaving the nest. We may still have children at home. We might be dealing with elder care of our own parents.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that are happening in our lives that kind of already shake things up. But I think that really what we're talking about in terms of like those things that I just listed aren't making us say, hey, on top of all that, I think I should run a business because, I don't have enough going on already. And I feel great for menopause.
Let's like stop our paycheck, our benefits, all of those
Exactly.
things that
Who
we've
needs
built.
healthcare?
Yeah,
Exactly.
like I'm 59. Who needs healthcare?
Oh my gosh. But I think that, the real thing that is going on that's driving this is one is that when you get to this decade of 50 or over 50, is you have enough lived experience now to be able to really reflect on where are you right now. And until now, I mean, frankly, there's just not a lot of time to ever do that. And some women aren't lucky enough to even do that at this point, right? I mean, to just really reflect and say, well, do I like where I am? Am I happy in this job? I've talked to so many women who start off, when we talk about, how did they get into careers? It's like, well, I fell into my career. And that is so normal. It is so normal for so many of us. And it's like, yeah, I never planned to do this, but here I am. And they have this opportunity to think, do I like this? Is this really what I am meant for? Also, there is a high likelihood that you have been working really hard in a corporate environment and have been passed over and over and over, and you're freaking sick of it.
Yeah.
And, and it's
And now
just, I
you're
think that,
training the people that are younger than your kids.
yes, yes, training people younger than your kids. Yes, and certainly younger than you. And I think that, that is really, there's a point too where women
Yeah,
are just like, this is not worth it. I can't even work at my full capacity or potential because I'm not given the opportunity. And
exactly.
that is a huge, frankly, I think a huge bummer for corporate, that women are leaving, women 50 plus Gen X, and now even some of the
Yes,
millennials are
yes.
leaving in droves, and we're starting our own businesses, which for women
Yeah.
is super, super exciting. For
And and
corporate,
and
not
and
so great.
as the parent of a college student, I can tell you these kids are not even gonna bother going to college because
Interesting.
they're not learning what they need. They're
Ah,
not learning what they need to be relevant in the job force as technology is changing, and, some of them could be saddled with $200,000 in debt. It's not a good proposition.
yeah. And I'm not there yet with our daughter. With my daughter, she's 13, and it'll be really interesting when she's college age. What is she going to want to do, and what is going to be appropriate? How are we going to help guide? I mean, as I'm seeing at 13, it might not matter how we
Really.
help guide if we think we're even guiding at all.
It doesn't even matter.
But,
But let's not get
I
too far down that road.
exactly,
But,
exactly. I think,
yeah, but let's
what are they going to need?
it I mean, I went on one job interview in 1983, and then one
Um,
job led to another, led to another, led to another, and what I was doing by the time I left in 2006, um, I was doing organizational development. I had no idea what organizational development was, but that's what I was doing.
yes, yeah.
And they were tap dancing for me not to leave.
Well, you're smart. I mean, they were lucky to have you, but I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
My degree was in communications and marketing. I
Mhm.
thought I was gonna and advertising, and I thought I was gonna go into advertising, and I went into the route of athletic footwear and then luxury goods, and my last job, I was head of operations.
Mhm.
Um, and just I wouldn't have even known what that was when I was in college,
Yeah.
and and then really when that kind of came to a head and came to a close, it was like, oh, I had been thinking about this coaching thing for a while. And for me, it coincided with looking at my 50th birthday. And it just seemed like the right thing to do, the
Yeah.
right change to make.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was, my son was getting ready to go to school. I'm a single parent, and I needed to be around. I couldn't work, 60
Mm.
hours a week part-time.
Right? Oh my gosh, the part-time job that is
Yeah.
just no
They should
benefits
just throw
and
that word alleged in front of it.
reduced pay, right? Oh my God. Oh my
And,
goodness.
yeah, that was something. But, yeah, I mean, women just are seeing their own potential when you have this is what I've been learning from all of these interviews, because there are very different stories,
Yeah.
but there are common threads. And one of the common threads is when they have the space to look and to listen and to feel, they realize they're better off betting on themselves.
Mm. That I hear it too. And I was doing some research, and 62% of female businesses in the US that are female founded are owned by women between the ages of 40 and 59. So 62% of female owned businesses are in our age bracket. And it really speaks to that, right? Of potentially having space, or potentially just being like, I'm going to bet on myself.
Yeah.
Was also reading that, for VC funding though, is we're not asking enough.
Yeah.
Women aren't asking enough for, we're not going out there and asking for funding. And when we do ask, only 8% of those who ask are getting it. And so, or sorry, 8% of VC firms have women in their boards.
Mm.
Um, but it is, I think, a fraction of that that are actually, of 25% will ask for funding, and a fraction of that actually get funding. And it is just, you know, it is really, it's unfortunate, but it's also, I think, an opportunity for us to learn
Yeah.
of, for one, encourage potentially our daughters to go into venture capitalism,
Mhm.
but also to say, okay, we have to make the ask, at least ask. And I was also reading that, bank loans, men typically ask for more money, and they typically ask,
Mhm.
whereas women ask for less money and they're typically turned down by banks. And I thought, it's just astounding, and the the facts around it being that female founders will definitely, more than their male counterparts, um, fund by themselves or ask friends and family to get them going. I think a lot of us, right, we work for a long time. We work until we're 50, 55, and we have we're then like, okay, well, I'm gonna educate myself in this area to get certified or get the accreditation that I might need, or I'm gonna become a consultant to the company I worked for before, and charge more money.
Mhm.
And then we sink our own money into it. And I think it's like we've just learned that there's not always a lot of support, but
No.
it's really time. The fact that we're having this conversation, hopefully that means that the tides are changing.
Yeah. I hope so too. I think they are. Um, I'm older than you, and, like, just even by those few years, like, what we saw in the workforce in the '80s and the '90s, I mean, it was the Stone Age. It really was. I mean, there was a big jump just in a few years. And the other thing is I just think people that are younger than us are just not going to put up with that. And not just the women, but I think men are different too. I see my son, I see his friends. Like they would never consider. I mean, one of the things that happened with my son is he watched Purple Rain. He's a musician. He loves
Uh-huh.
and, he was just expecting to love this movie, and, he just said to me, "Well, all the guys were assholes."
Ah, well, a good takeaway. Great takeaway. I mean, you gotta listen to it you gotta watch it for the music.
But I mean,
But
and he was just astounded, and he was like, "Now
yeah.
I know why you're single." He goes like, "Why would you wanna be with any of these guys?"
Oh my god. Well,
Uh,
yeah, nice. I mean, high EQ for your son. I'm
yeah,
glad he
but
took that.
they're different, they're raised different, the surroundings are different, their friends are different,
Mm.
and that's gonna benefit all of us. I have a lot of faith in this next generation.
Well, good. I'm really happy to hear that, and I think that, we should, because I think that, what we're seeing in our own and before us is that, it has not been easy, and not that it's gonna be easy for the ones that come after us. I
No.
don't think that it will be, but I think that we've been, especially this Gen X area, right? Whether you're on the cusp, in the middle, or at the other end, it's this sandwich generation of,
Mm,
in between having kids at home and having parents still alive that may be becoming ill, and kind of left to figure it out on
mm.
our own from latchkey kid
I was
up.
just gonna say that.
I mean, which one of us didn't? I mean, I came in, let myself in, I think at 9, and came in. I remember watching Dukes of Hazzard after school, or MTV, and eating canned frosting by the spoonful out of the fridge, which, super healthy. I talk to my daughter about nutrients all the time, but, and then I had to have a few things done by the time my mom got home. It was like, make sure the litter box for the cat was scooped out, and, maybe start my homework, and then help then really get down and do homework, and just keep carrying on. I think that the expectations have changed.
Yes, for sure. And I think a big part of it too is, like, we were always looking for permission. you know? We
Mm.
were always looking for, somebody to tell us we can try, there are opportunities. I mean, like, we didn't have that. Now, like, our kids are given opportunities. They expect opportunities. I never had that expectation.
Mm. I love what you just said about we're waiting to be given permission, because that is it's so critical
Yeah.
to give ourselves permission,
Mhm.
and that we are kind of waiting. There was a conversation between two friends of mine, and one of them was like, I want to be a consultant, and his dad told him, he's just like, you're a consultant. And it was just like, and he
Yep.
was he was then it was like anointed consultant. And it was like, and he's younger than us. But my friend Katrina was like, well, yeah, we could just like do this too. Like we can
Mhm.
decide and give ourselves permission. And I think that once we do it, I mean, that's the most important.
Yeah.
But I also think that if somebody sees something in us
Yeah.
that we maybe saw or maybe thought was there, but they're willing to like shine a light on it and champion it, it's just like, oh, well, yeah, yeah, I can do that. I would love to step into that. You think I can do that? Right. And it's like, holy moly, we don't have to wait for somebody else,
No.
because we might wait forever,
Yeah.
especially if we're not seeking out those type of conversations.
One of the through lines that I see is there's a remembering.
Hmm.
Like, when we have that space to like consider what we actually want, what are we good at? What do we care about? When we
Mm,
have space to do that, it's not so much that we find this new version of ourselves, but we remember the parts of ourselves that we lost along the way, taking care of other people, taking care of all the things, and and as we reclaim them, we're going to go into this next topic here, but as
mhm,
we reclaim them, that's what builds our confidence.
mm,
That's when we remember the things about ourselves that we really love, that we want to share, that we are really proud of because we put them aside for one reason or another, and we forget about them. And then when we start to remember them, we kind of blossom into this like fuller version of who we are because for years there were parts of us that were just dark. It was missing.
mm.
And I've had several clients over the last couple of months who are all women well over 50 tell me that like the lights were turned on because I was able to see something that they couldn't remember anymore. And then I showed it to them. And
What I
then
get.
they were able to kind of, like, take that and turn it into their marketing or their products or their services, and, like, the they just it's amazing to watch them. It's amazing, and I mean, like, one woman that I'm talking about, she's 72 years old,
Mm,
building
that
an entire business
I love
based
that.
on, a fuller version of who she is.
Yeah. Yeah, in my 50 Not Dead, group, one of our women in that group, she published her first book at 72, which
Yeah,
I just love. I just love that,
yeah,
um, that, we certainly don't wanna age ourselves out
no.
when we're 50 and when we're 60, because one day we're gonna be 70, 80, or 90, and we're gonna look back and be like, "Oh, we were so young." Was just talking to my Aunt Judy. She turned 82 yesterday,
Mhm.
and, was just like, kind of making jokes about it and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, but when you're 102, you're gonna look back and you're gonna say, 'Oh my god, I was so spry at 82.'" You
You
know, and
you're
it's
the
so much
youngest you're ever gonna be today.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I wanna touch on something that you said about, around remembering
Mhm,
and remembering kind of who we are and coming back to that person to then become a fuller version. And that really echoes the work of Nancy Collier.
mhm,
And she is a psychologist who has been treating women for 30 years.
mhm,
And she's been treating women, and she has also been studying women and behaviors and how we are conditioned and how we deal with that. And she puts forth through her research that at around age 12, that women especially, um, we go to that middle school I mean, she didn't call it the seventh circle of hell, but that's what so many people I've interviewed call seventh grade, the middle school nightmare. But around that age, that the pull of fitting in is so great and so important to be part of the group that we, as she says, we make a deal with the devil. We either put aside who we really are to fit in, or we say, okay, I'm going to stay true to who I am at risk of not having that pack, right? And it's from the pack mentality for survival before. And her work has been really around, one, recognizing that does happen, and then trying to help women reconnect, especially if they went the way of fitting in, which a vast majority of us did. I laughed and joked with her that I think I came out of the womb trying to fit in. It's just like, I don't know that I waited till 12. But and that, she's trying to help women reconnect with that part. And she's actually trying to do it before we get to 50, because in her words, I'm not going to quote her exactly, but her take on it is that by the time we're 50, that there's so much foundationally that's in place that to make those big changes could like blow up your whole world, which is absolutely, I'm not, my coaching is about blowing up your whole world, but it's helping women that are like, yeah, I want to change it. And I want to make a big change, and it may change everything, but it's untenable to not make the change.
Yeah.
So I had to get this hair out of my face. I'm sorry.
I started when, I was in my early 40s, because I knew I couldn't stay in my job, but like I was the only one paying for everything. And I'd been there so long. What am I supposed to do? Like, I never went to college. I didn't have an education. And, I just didn't know what to do. I started a virtual business when they didn't exist. And like everybody thought I'd lost my mind, because I left a really good job. But I left a really good job that was taking advantage of me.
Yeah. Well, what an interesting story that you have, Donna, because to me, that really speaks to a really strong inner confidence to leave that job and to start a PR agency. You didn't just start something.
That's not what I started. I started a
Oh,
VA business, which was
okay.
even
So I
worse
thought you
because
started a PR,
nobody
and I
knew
was
what a VA was.
either one is sorry, I'm going crazy about this hair across my face, and I'm backwards.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't confidence, it was survival. So my challenge was I had to learn how to take the survival skills that I had that like kept me alive, kept my son alive, and to turn them into confidence.
Wow. How did you pick VA firm? And
Because
how did you pick it?
I found I didn't choose it. I was desperate. I was desperate for my son's safety, and
Mm,
I needed to find a way to make a living, to stay where I lived, to be there for him. It was really there was no answer. So I found the answer. I found a woman who lived in Florida who was a virtual assistant. Her name is Diana Ennin, and
uh-huh.
I put a picture of her up by my desk, and
Oh,
she was my guiding light. And I just sat there and I looked at her and I said, if she could do it, I could do it. This is what I said to myself, because to me, that was the only way I was going to make it all work. And and then I was going to do both things for a year to see what happened. I was 2 weeks into that, and 9 o'clock at night, I was having ice cream for dinner, and I said to the guy behind the counter, "I am going to quit my job tomorrow." And he said, "I don't care."
lovely. I was hoping he was going to say, "Well, ice cream's on me," but like,
So I quit my job the next day, and they hired me as a consultant and paid me like ridiculous amounts of money just to finish up all the things I was working on. I did that for a few months, and then I did whatever I had to do. I organized a Chinese themed bat mitzvah. I cleaned out people's closets. I organized tax documents because nobody knew what I was. I would go to BNI meetings with plumbers and insurance salesmen and mortgage brokers, and they'd be, "You do what?"
Whatever you need,
Whatever
right?
you need. As long as I can
Yeah,
keep my
I'll
clothes
figure it
on,
out.
I'm there.
I'll figure it out. How many women do we know, right, that really do feel like if I can just get my foot in the door or if I can just talk to a human, I will figure it out. Throw
Yeah,
whatever you want to at me.
and
I will
that's what I
figure it
do.
out. Yeah.
That's what I do, and
Resourceful.
I still do it. I'm still doing it because that's how I'm wired. But,
Yeah.
but I built
Survival.
confidence. I turned the survival into
Yeah.
confidence, and that's, like, one of the things that I see having these conversations with these women, and, in my community, we've got women all the way up to 85 years old, and they're
Mm.
still changing their lives. They're still learning and remembering things about themselves, and that
Yes.
just lights me up because we all have those days where we're thinking, "Good lord, are we still doing this? Like, are we ever gonna settle down?"
Yeah, or is it gonna get easier, or is this
No,
gonna become predictable ever?
never. Yeah,
Do
but
I
what's
miss
gonna happen?
predictable, or am I happy with the
If it's
unpredictability?
predictable, you're gonna do something else, so, like,
Right.
just put that fantasy aside.
Absolutely. I think that, looking at survival, for self-confidence, I think that that makes, um, is pretty profound in the sense of it's really hard earned, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like survival. I mean, I think of all of the women who have
yeah,
done exactly what you just described. It's like I would do anything
yeah,
to be able to keep my son safe. I mean, what you just said, and um, but then you do it, and you keep him
mhm,
safe, and you put food on the table, and I think that if you can embody that as self confidence, I think that and appreciate that for what you do. I think that is, um, I was going to say a gift, but I what I'm thinking of is really like that in itself for some women is a skill, right? Of being able to accept, like, yeah, actually, I did this. I did this, and I did it really well. I worked really hard, and I did it really well. And holy crap, I can figure out whatever you need me to. I will figure it out. And I think that, in your case, it you're able to embrace it as confidence. I could do that. So I can do, like, if I can do this, I can do this. And if I can do this, right? And you continue to build. And
it becomes a
I think
barometer.
I think that in some cases we continue to feel like we're just in that survival mode, even though we might be going up. And that is it's unfortunate and just and sad. And I would just say that for anybody out there listening, if you're in that, I mean, give yourself, you deserve a pat on the back. You deserve to be seen because we know you're working really, really hard and you've worked so hard for so long. And we see
Yeah,
the confidence that should be there
yeah,
because of what you're capable of.
and that's where the self-love comes in too, because when you can start to appreciate what you do every day, then you start to really care for yourself and celebrate yourself, this is not just with me. I'm seeing this in so many of the conversations. One of the patterns that I see too is that, you know, uh, like people my age, and even like not even so much your age, but more my age and older,
Mhm.
they lived with their parents, they got married, they went to school, they got a job, but there was always like somebody there that was like the protective beings. And the
Mm,
job became that. The job became like, another set of parents. And
mm,
now maybe for the first time in their lives at 40 or 50 or 60 or even 70 years old, they're stepping out and doing something on their own.
yeah.
Is That's ballsy.
It is. It's super brave.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
super brave, and it it's super brave, and I think that also a lot of creativity is tapped into,
yeah,
which I know
yeah.
we're gonna get to.
We're gonna get
Um,
to we've gone past we're at a half hour. I could keep going. Are you good to keep going?
I can talk
Yeah, okay.
forever.
Yeah,
Everybody
uh,
that knows me knows that.
this is special. Let's keep going. So, yeah, let's move this over to courage and resilience because to do these things, it does take courage. And, I don't know if you're seeing this too, but, like, I see women that are surprised with the courage that they have, that they didn't realize they
Mm,
had. They had no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Oh, and the amount of women that I've interviewed that they say, 50 was a turning point when I just and I don't know that this comes as courage, but it's like almost like a claim, a stake in the ground of like, I just don't
Yeah,
give a shit anymore. I don't
yeah,
give a shit about
yeah,
what somebody thinks. And the
yeah,
freeing
yeah.
um, the energy that that brings up, right? Of like not having to care about what somebody thinks about every single move you make or what, trying to fit in every single case. Um, I think it goes really against the grain of everything we were conditioned. And I think that takes a lot of courage, right? To face what that is and to say, I don't give a shit anymore. I
Mm,
don't give a shit. I'm going to just do this, take
mm,
it or leave it. I've put my time in conforming to what you wanted. And I see a lot of women, they get to that point and then they're just like, yeah, you know what? I am, and maybe they're miserable where they are, absolutely miserable, so fed up with it. And then they make this leap that is like, oh my gosh, the courage it takes one to make the leap. And then like, it's like a rocket ship because then it just, we are resilient. The resilience is of women is
It's fuel.
incredibly, yeah, it's fuel and it's incredibly, um, uh, elastic. It's just like we are resilient and
Because we've
I
been
see them
building that.
creating things.
We've been building it all along without realizing it.
Mm. Ooh,
So
tell me more about that.
we've
That
got a foundation of resilience. It's not something that just happens. But every time, like, resilience is a scale.
mm,
So, like, there are times when things are going really well, and when that happens, you're building reserves of resilience for when things are
yeah.
not going really well. So then when things kind of dip in the other direction, you're pulling on those that the stores that you've started to save when things were going okay. It's like money, right? Like, so you put aside a little money for a rainy day, and then you have it to spend when something happens. And resilience works the same way. And it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth it goes. But every time you do that, it's like Pilates. You're strengthening all the muscles.
Do it enough times so you get past the really painful part. You
But
start.
you're strengthening all those muscles that hold
Yeah,
everything up that nobody sees, right?
yeah,
Nobody sees those little things that are happening, but they're there. And when it really hits the fan, that's what holds it all together.
yeah,
And, we don't realize how much we've built that until we have to start to lean into it. And,
yeah.
often when we lean into it is when we make the hard decisions.
Really good point. I wish that the people that are watching could participate and speak with us for a moment because I know at the beginning I saw that Janet Barrett was in the
Mhm,
audience and she um, reconfigured. She started a whole second half of her
mhm,
career in her 50s, and she now speaks specifically on resilience.
mhm.
And she's powerful. Her story is really powerful. And I was like, oh, I want to invite her in and just be like, oh, hey, give us a few words on this. Um, because,
Right.
and boy, resilience can
Yeah,
sometimes
she's
come.
still here.
Yay. Hi, Janet.
Yay.
Yes, Janet, I would love if you have any thoughts on resilience or can add to the conversation, please feel free because I know that you had to be incredibly resilient to bounce back for some really tough crap. And holy moly, like watching what Janet has created has been, I mean, just one of the delights of being a fellow entrepreneur because she's just doing so much for us. She's always done for others, but now it's just on a bigger scale. I love it. I'm looking at you, can't say
Janet,
hi.
can you type something in the comments and we'll kind of comment around it?
Yeah. Um, and while she's typing, if she is, and I don't know, she might be in the car. Um, she wrote a book called Stop the Break. And when
Mhm,
I met Janet, she was trying to figure out what she was going to do next. And she had gone back for her second master's degree, I believe. And she had been home out of the traditional workforce for 10 years, having 4 children, and she just so bright and went and got, I think, her second master's, and was just like, okay, well, what do I want to do with this? And how do I channel this? And she founded a company, she wrote a book, and she launched a speaking career. And it is all about stopping the break, about finding resilience in yourself, stopping the break, the mental break,
Mhm.
and getting in front of it and speaking to companies to help people get in front of it. Oh, let's go ahead and read that, Donna.
And
If you're the host, I'll let you.
so Janet, and we're co-hosts. Janet is saying that her perspective on resilience is that we only get it half right. We get the first half right when we push through hard things, but forget about the second half, the part where we learn from it, set it down, and move on.
Oh,
Um, so true. And then she's saying
wow.
it's
I
this
just got goosebumps on my face.
it's conversations like this that help us know how to do that second part so much better than we have done in the past. Absolutely. Um, and I'm gonna go back to her first comment here because it is. We think that, like, it's over so we can walk away. But what we
Mm,
forget, what we don't realize that we're doing, and Janet, pop in if you want to pop in, we're building that resistance on the back end. It's happening, like, on like websites, like you see all the stuff on the
mm,
front end, but on the back end, there's all this stuff going on. That's the resilience, and you don't realize you have it until you need it, and then it pops up. And what a gift it is when we know that we have that. What a gift it is that we know that we have been building this, because then the next time something's going to come, you start to see it, you start to
mm,
recognize the signs, and then instead of fear popping up, instead of being afraid, instead of going into fight or flight, or a fawn turning into a fawn, what you do is you see this coming and you face it.
mm.
And Janet's got more. We end up carrying it around with us. And she calls it the emotional Sherpa. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that, what she was saying about the second half, that we then learn from it, and I think that that is also a gift of age, right? Of age, and being able to learn from what we've been through,
Well, it's
giving
it's
ourselves some credit for what we've been through, and then learning from it, and figuring out, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? I was that wasn't I didn't do anything wrong there. I wasn't wrong.
yeah,
Or, you know what? I worked really
right.
hard, and it might not have been perfect, but I worked really, really hard on it, and I can count on myself. And I think I think it takes reflection and a certain maturity, and a willingness to look at yourself really, as clearly as possible, to be like, okay, what can I learn from this, and what do I want to take with me, and carry it in the front, rather than letting it kind of drag it down. As when I think of a Sherpa, I think of something on your back,
Yeah,
which that feels like really heavy.
heavy.
um, and yeah, I love this. I love
One
this
one
conversation.
one of the gifts that comes from this is you start to learn to trust yourself, because
Mm,
you realize that you have the tools that you need to make it through anything,
yeah.
and those tools are your resilience.
What do you do, Donna, when you get scared? I still get scared of stuff.
Well, it's changed because I was in survival mode my whole life. From the time I was born until just a few years ago, I lived in survival mode 24/7.
God.
And, I just if I had something that I had to face, I beat the shit out of it. So I just fought. I fought people, I fought ideas, I fought whatever I had, whatever I was coming up against, I beat the shit out of it. I was this tough, scrappy girl from Brooklyn, and I was just gonna beat the shit out of everything that got in my path. And then I got tired.
I needed you as my best friend, I think. I'm gonna beat some stuff up.
And then I got tired.
When I
I
was younger.
I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do
Mm.
it anymore, and I laid down my sword probably about 5 years ago. And, I just find other ways to do it. First of all, I see if it even matters.
Mm,
That's the first thing I do is if it doesn't matter, it's not my fight.
yeah,
And then I find other ways, I don't fight it anymore. The only time I'll fight is for my kid. That's it.
yeah.
Other than
Oh,
that, there's another way.
yeah. Yeah, the fighting for your kid is absolutely that instinct is alive and well. I think that one of the things when I get scared, because even though it's like I think I have a lot of resilience. Have certainly been like in my life has gone like this and then up and then this and then and so I know that there's resilience there. There's still days when I'm just like, holy moly, I don't know if am I gonna, is this gonna go well? Is what I'm doing is it gonna pan out? Is it gonna bring what I want? And I think that one of the things that I'm learning and facing right now is that the part of it is to sit with it and really give myself the time to look at it, like not always looking externally
Yeah.
for somebody else to tell me, okay, well, because
Nobody
there
else
have been
nobody else
times where it's
knows.
just like, okay, well, who knows?
You.
Who knows how to do this? And I remember saying to one of my best friends not so long ago, I'm just like, and we were struggling. I mean, we're both moms of teenagers, and I'm like, who do we call? And she's like, there's no one to call, Cameron.
Nobody to
I'm like,
call.
I'm like, and I was so stunned. I was like, I mean, I really expected her to be like, oh, well, you can follow this person, or you can read this book, or you call this somebody. And she's like, there's no one to call. And it was just like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
and that also it really
That's where you
makes
start to
you
really
draw
learn
on internal wisdom, right?
you
And
learn to trust yourself, and the other thing is you learn that nobody else has your answers. You have your answers,
yes.
and not everything is your problem to solve.
Oh God, yes. Boy, my
And
family would would certainly hand me that one on a silver platter because I'm a big problem solver. That's
me
all up in
too.
your
I thought they were all mine. I thought they were all mine to solve. That was my
Mm.
job. That was my role in life is to solve every single problem that showed up in front of me, and it's not. And the other thing that I learned is, um, what you think is gonna happen might not, and it might be something better. You have to trust that,
I love that.
if it's not going the way it's supposed to go, step back, give it a break.
Mm, let it
And
breathe.
maybe it's supposed to be something entirely different. Maybe you're only this much off, but let it happen on its own, and it's always what it's supposed to be when you just let it happen.
Oh, I that is yeah, that and I think the hyperachiever perfectionist streak that so many women have,
Yeah,
the stepping back part
yeah. Let it
can be
go.
really hard, right? And like, okay, but it's so important.
It is so
It's so
it's
important.
it's really the key to everything because we can't force things. They're gonna
Yeah.
happen like they're gonna happen, and, sometimes there's some other entity out there arranging things for you, and you just need to get the hell out of the way.
Yes, right? And let
Like,
good things,
how how
good brings good,
how
right?
many
Generally.
times do you where do your ideas come to you? When you're sleeping, when you're in the shower, when you go for a bike ride, if you're laying on the beach, this is where your ideas come.
Yeah.
Not when you're sitting in front of your computer at 11
Uh,
o'clock at night, and,
right.
and, it's allowing that trust to happen because on the flip side of that, we have a lot of responsibility
Mm,
and a
yeah.
lot riding on us. Like you said, there's no one there, there's no one to call, and, like we talked about earlier, there was the parents, there was the job, there was the husband, there was this, like, all of those things were, like, comforting entities that, like,
Mm,
you know, we're doing what we have to do, but they're taking care of us, right?
right.
When you
Yeah.
step out on your own, there's nobody there to take care of you.
Yeah. I think that communities like communities like we have both formed and that have formed together
Critical.
are incredibly helpful for that. When I did a poll at the end of the year with my 50 Not Dead cohort to ask them, you know, we meet monthly. Everybody who's been on the podcast is invited into this grouply monthly group call. And I wanted to see, like what are they, they're all 50 plus. What do you want the most out of this? Like, what can we give you the most? What are you looking for? By far, the answer was community, a sense of community, of just other people to either walk through it with you or to bounce ideas off of you. Because, and somebody just wrote in, I'm sorry, I missed your name, but like no one is coming, right? And
Yeah,
and I think about what you were saying before we could call our parents. And I'm really, really lucky that I can still call my parents, but they can't tell me, they
no,
can't answer the
you're living
question.
in, like, another hemisphere from
Yeah, and they can't tell me, they can't answer, well, how do I become the best version of myself as a business owner?
they don't
Right?
have that answer.
Nobody else can answer that except me because it has to come from within me. They can't answer the question, how do I become the best version of myself as a parent?
Yeah,
I have to decide that for myself. And it's hard in both of those cases, right? And how do I be my best self as a community member? What does that even mean to me? Right. And it was one of the areas where, frankly, I haven't made the space for
yeah,
yet in terms of my local community, my online community, and the ones that I bring in together virtually. I have fostered more, which
yeah,
is I find interesting, and I think is a result of COVID. But thank God that we have this online medium that we can share together
yeah,
and build. And I love that somebody just wrote, the same person,
yeah, Lee,
the community is a balm.
it is.
Know that it.
I mean, I've been doing this so long now, most of the people in my world, I've never met.
Mm, one of the women that is in your group, that of course her name is escaping me right now, but she's fantastic. She is a hypnotherapist.
Oh, Stephanie?
Stephanie, yes, of
Stephanie
course. She's going to
Alfonso.
be on the panel. We're going to be on the same panel tomorrow. Yes, Stephanie. I love her. And I was talking to her about her work one day, and it's fascinating. It's so fascinating. She's studied so much, and she knows so much about just how to help you flip the switch, so to speak. Like if you're struggling with something, and she's just like, yeah, you can go to talk therapy, or she's like, I have this other little back door where I can just like help you faster. I'm like, oh, this is really fascinating. And oh crap, I'm going to lose my train of thought. What did I just do? I was talking with her, and she was flipping the switch. I'm so sorry. I just totally lost my
That's
train of
okay.
thought. Oh my God. I
She
don't know what
hypnotized
time
you.
now.
That's residual hypnosis.
What was I going to say? Oh my God. Oh, I know. God, we were talking about virtual. And I was asking, I'm like, well, I don't know. Do you do hypnosis? Like, can you do it online? I'm like, well, one of my best friends is a hypnotherapist. Like, but I don't know. I've never tried it online. She's like, well, Kamrin, actually, I took my whole business online. I only see clients online, and I took it before COVID.
Yeah.
And I
It
was
was
like,
probably
I was
7 or 8 years ago.
astounded. Yeah, I was so astounded that work um, was just as effective
Mhm.
online, and how much community building that you can do. One of the things that I was reading also in preparation for talking about women business owners was that even though, I mean, that we're a smaller percentage in the whole scheme of things in terms of business owners in general, women are a smaller percentage, but we're growing
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
fast. We're growing in the US, and African American and Hispanic owned female businesses are growing at the fastest rate in the US. Um, and the one of the things that has been a barrier, in addition to the sexism and lack of funding, is the fact that men historically have the old boys club, right?
Yeah.
They have broader business networks.
Mhm.
They were taught how to do that. They were told it was important, and they were given permission to go golfing when we
Mm.
were home, doing all the other things. But it, in one way or another, it was really smart, right? In terms of like building that connection. And now I think that we are purposefully weaving those nets, right? I think of it like just like a net, we build these networks, um, so that we can support
We're,
each
we're,
other
we're
and
wired to
learn.
do that. They're not wired.
Yes,
We're wired
we're
to do.
wired to do it, but they were given permission to do it. And I think that we just have to up our game and be like, we have permission
We
to do
are.
this
We are.
too. Totally.
You and I, in our own little way, shared the stories of over 100 women.
Yes. Yes, well over 100.
Yeah.
And what you said about your community, a collective reach of more than 1,000,000.
Yeah.
We've been together for sure, more than 1,000,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's really
And
cool.
and what we're doing, I mean, like, let's talk a bit about mentoring and advocacy, because one of the things that I realized over the last year as I've been kind of like redesigning my own business is I've always been an advocate for women in business,
Mm.
even before I had a business.
Oh,
Because I was advocating for, I worked in law firms and I was advocating for female lawyers. I set up a breastfeeding lactation center in a law firm because there were young, I mean, under the age of 30, young
yeah,
associates that were working insane hours and they had
sure.
babies at home. They're like leaking, the babies are starving, the
Oh,
food's
God.
ringing. So I put a whole, I didn't, I just,
Didn't ask.
I didn't ask.
Yeah,
I didn't ask. I took a room. I got a chair. I got a mini fridge. I got a book of taxi vouchers, and I set it up. And
I think that is amazing. I mean,
and this
it's
was
such a
like
it's a it's like you
1990.
got a room and a chair, but it's like how lovely and how grateful I bet the moms were for that small act of being seen and somebody caring enough to be like, "Honey, you don't need to be leaking at work.
Yeah,
We can do something about
yeah,
this."
yeah. And
Right?
no, and because of the structure of the organization, if anybody asked permission to do that,
Be
that
no.
well, even before, even if they said yes, it would be a 2-year process. It would
Oh,
need to be
right. It would be
it
the bureaucracy of, okay, well, and it's not gonna be where not the easy way. We're gonna actually do it over here, and it's not necessarily gonna be the convenient way or the easy way,
exactly,
and
exactly.
it has to be in the budget written in the budget for next year, but
It
then that
was
might be
done.
the first time it
I
hits.
had it done in a day.
Yeah. I love that. I think that that instinct runs really deep. I know that,
But that's what we do.
yeah,
That's not just
in corporate
me.
environments.
That's what, and not just in corporate, but that's what we do. And,
Mm,
like, I'm gonna flip back and forth between mentoring and advocacy and purpose and passion.
mm,
We do what needs to be done. We cut out all of the nonsense, and we do what needs to be done. And I think that we're just wired for that, and we know how to get things done. We know how to, care for people.
mm,
We know how to understand what people need, even when sometimes they don't recognize what they need.
mm.
There's a nurturing element to it,
Oh, yeah,
and
and empathy.
that empathy. Yeah,
And I think our own lived experience makes us the perfect
yeah,
mentors, and we should really honor that, right? We
yeah,
should be honored that we can take that role and make it easier for
yes,
somebody else and to
yes,
fight for women that are coming up
yes,
behind us.
yes,
And that, um, to not do that is a crime. I mean,
yeah,
it is really to squash another woman down.
yeah,
It shouldn't be done. There's enough out
mm,
there
yeah,
that there's enough in society that does a pretty good job of that. And so we have to stick together and bring people up. And the idea of mix purpose and passion and mentorship and advocacy, I think that those are a really great thing to pull together, right? Because um, I think it speaks a lot to the the female psyche.
It does,
Right?
and it creates this cycle, right? So if we build a business built about what we're passionate about and what our purpose is, because when we start to listen, we start to understand what our purpose is. Not that we're just doing this because it's work, um, but that we're doing this because this is what we can't not do it. Like,
Mm,
I don't know how to not do what I do every day. I just
mhm,
I find different ways of presenting it and different ways of packaging it, but I've basically done the same thing my whole life. I
mm,
help people to be seen, and I
yeah,
help people to be understood, and whether that's them seeing and understanding themselves or being seen to the right people and the people that they can help, um, but that's my purpose, like, because we all need to be seen and heard, and we all need to be appreciated and advocated for, and, like, when I sit down and I think about what do I need to do today? How do I need to work? If I feel like it's not, like, coming to me, I think about a situation in my own life, like, what would I have needed in this situation? What do I wish somebody would have done for me?
that is
And
such a
then
great day starter.
I do it, because
Yeah,
if I needed that, somebody else needs it too.
somebody else needs it, and they'll appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when you can really tap in to, like, connecting with people on shared values,
Mm,
because they're needing the same things that you needed. They're wanting the same things that you want. So, like, this whole middle layer of noise just dissipates because it doesn't matter in that space. It's irrelevant.
yeah, it is a I think it is a gift to shed, like you said, although the stuff in between, we that can get really in the way.
Yeah,
And when if you just go straight to it and just be like, "Are you okay?
yeah.
You okay? Is there anything I can do for you?" And that actually I did an exercise or as part of an exercise in a women's leadership group once. And the exercise was to be prepared with an ask for when somebody says, "What can I help you with?" Because
Mm,
too often we're like, "I don't know. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know." And I loved the exercise because it's like if somebody offers, like, have a couple in your pocket, like, what would be great if you could connect me with this person, or if you could, that, I love how you have your logo up here. How did you make the purpose and passion things go back and forth? I don't know how to do that. Like, could you, and like, but have a couple. It could be a tiny ask for somebody else,
yeah.
but really bring you further. Um, so that you're not caught off guard by somebody just being nice, right? And seeing you and saying, "Hey, I can help out here."
And with that, I'm gonna flip back to the mentoring and the advocacy because, whether you're self-mentoring or being a self-advocate or doing that for somebody else, again, that's a cyclical thing, right?
Mm,
And you've gotta create that cycle, otherwise there's a break in it. So, like, what I'm always doing is I'm always looking for the gaps, I'm looking for the breaks, I'm looking for where there is a disruption.
mm.
How could we fix that?
Oh, I like that.
Because we all have it, and it comes to us when we are overwhelmed and overloaded and too busy and just frustrated. So, like,
Mhm.
when we're in that space, like, where am I, like, banging up against the wall? Sometimes somebody else could see it before you can,
Oh, yeah.
and
A
that's where
lot of times it's
yeah,
easier.
yeah, and that's
Right.
where you can help somebody, like, I never want to tell somebody what they should do, or give them one
No.
set way to do anything, because I just really do truly believe that we have our own answers.
Mhm.
But when you've got experience, you can really help people by showing them the things they can't see.
Yeah. Being a reflection, reflecting back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. That, you don't have to tell them, but if you can help them see it for themselves that it's there and they come to their own conclusion,
To
way more
their own
empowering.
advocacy.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been really fun,
Yeah.
Donna.
Yeah. Yeah, we should probably wind this up. We've been going for an hour. All right.
Easy. So easy. Think of a few, no
Um,
problem.
I like to end these interviews with a wisdom bomb. Do you have a wisdom bomb that you'd like to leave everyone with?
Oh my gosh. My wisdom, oh my God, sorry, is don't set your clock for when you're on a live stream. My wisdom bomb would, I think that the wisdom bomb is really just something we talked about a moment ago, is that you have the answers. You have all the answers, and you just need to, you know, stop looking externally for somebody else to show you how to do it. I mean, it's one thing when you're learning a new skill, but
Mm.
like when you're really looking for answers on what is meaningful to you and really deep down what's important. I mean, sometimes all you really need is not to spend money on another person or service or day at a spa, which I'm a huge fan of, love spa days. But, as healing and important and probably move you forward is maybe it's an hour journaling in a sunny spot,
Yeah.
and just see what comes for you.
Yeah.
So
Take
I
that
don't know
note.
that's certainly not my own wisdom. That doesn't come from me, but it is something that I'm learning, and relearning and reintroducing for myself.
Yeah. We have to stop.
Thank you.
We have to stop. So, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Happy,
Valentine's Day, Donna.
happy Valentine's Day to all of the wonderful women that are in our growing communities. And I really look forward to see where we are months from now, a year from now, because we're both growing in size, in stories, in wisdom, and in our communities. And our communities are intermingling more, and we'll be doing more of that too. And I just think that we're contributing to the connective tissue of creating change,
Oh,
and just making it easier for all of us to be able to get out there and do what we love to do.
I think that's a lovely note to end on.
So if you are listening to the replay, tag us. We'll come back. We'll join in the conversation and come back tomorrow because Cameron's going to be back for the wisdom panel. We've got a wisdom panel on confidence and self love, and we've got a ton more to talk about. And there is a link in the chat to the love letter that we wrote to all of our women entrepreneurs. So click on that, read it, post some comments, share it with somebody. It's a really nice thing to send to somebody else.
Yes,
So
I think so
have
too.
a wonderful day. Do something special for you. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you, Donna.